It is indeed Market Monday. Each and every Monday, I go over the biggest risers and fallers in average draft position in the best ball markets. I will discuss whether I'm buying or selling these players at their new prices and why. The idea is to get you up to speed very quickly on what's actually happening out there in drafts and how to adjust. Let's begin with three best ball fallers from the last 7 days. Terry McLaurin is down 1.4 spots to 31st overall on DraftKings. I suspect this fall stems from the holdout talk around McLaurin. He's entering the final year of his contract. He understandably wants one more payday as he enters his age 30 season. Been reports that the two sides are quote unquote not in a good place, likely stemming from the fact that McLaurin wants something like $30 million a year, same range that Tyreek Hill got before the 2024 season at a similar age. We have not made any docs or baked in any holdout risk at all on McLaurin. Still expect the two sides to get something done. They need each other. I am drafting as if McLaurin is there week one. More interestingly to me, though, is McLaurin's outlook on the field. It always scares me when wide receivers, who I don't really consider pure red zone targets, when they're coming off outlier high touchdown rates. McLaurin last year had 13 touchdowns on 82 catches, an absurd 15.8% touchdown rate, easily a career high. For example, Mike Evans, who was put on this earth to score touchdowns, was at 14.8% last year and is at 12.6% for his career. Now, a lot changed last year for McLaurin. Jayden Daniels was incredible, and Cliff Kingsbury did a great job, much to my chagrin. This year, they add Deebo Samuel, who will soak up a lot of those horizontal raid screens that McLaurin got plenty of last season. And of course, the TD rate is going to come down possibly by a lot. So we're slightly behind average draft position on McLaurin in the rankings right now, even after this move. I don't want none of McLaurin on DraftKings, but I do prefer Jackson Smith and Jigba, prefer Garrett Wilson. Think I prefer Devontae Adams as well. But definitely prefer McLaurin over Marvin Harrison in that range, and probably McLaurin over Mike Evans for me too. One important point I want to make, though, here is on Underdog. I take more Terry McLaurin. That's because the correlation of TDs means more on Underdog. An elite quarterback is better on Underdog also. So I like getting McLaurin in round 3, Jayden Daniels in round 4 on Underdog. It just fits that stack specifically, and the prices, I think, just fit the setup better on Underdog. Second faller is Jared Goff, down 2.0 spots to 100th overall on DraftKings. Pure pocket passer at 100 overall isn't great. These guys who get no rushing stats just have to be so insane on both volume and efficiency to compete with the dual threat guys. Of course, last year, Jared Goff did exactly that. He got off 539 pass attempts, completed just a wild 72.4% of his passes. He had never been above 67% completion percentage in his career before. He threw 37 touchdown passes for the third best touchdown rate in the whole league. Now, though, is it sustainable? Goff loses Ben Johnson, loses Frank Ragnow. The defense is going to be better. Aiden Hutchinson is getting back. Actually, they could be much better on defense. So in a vacuum, Jared Goff at 100th overall is a pretty easy fade for me. I turbo click Justin Fields over Jared Goff. Same with Brock Purdy. And it's definitely closer, but I like Dak Prescott and Bo Nix over Jared Goff as well. Of course, though, if I have Jahmyr Gibbs or Jameson Williams and or Sam Laporta, Goff is a fine click as a stack where those guys can rack up PPR points, but I'm not exactly thrilled about this price on Jared Goff right now. Third and final faller is Jaylen Noel. Noel down 2.2 spots to 188 overall on DraftKings. He's also down more than 5 spots on Underdog. Jaylen Noel is, of course, slot receiver out of Iowa State. Texans took him in round 3 of the draft. They also took Noel's college teammate, shout out Shower Narrative, Jaden Higgins, at 34 overall. And they also added Christian Kirk, who the Jaguars were about to cut as a cap casualty. Texans give up a round 7 pick for him in the offseason. Not expecting Tank Dell back this year, sadly. Not expecting a real role for John Mechie. So really 4 wide receivers here in play for the Texans. I would pencil in Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins as the outside wide receivers, the guys in 2 wide receiver sets. How many 3 wide receiver sets will this team run? Well, I think it's important to note that new Texans offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, he comes from Sean McVay's staff, where he was Sean McVay's pass game coordinator. No one runs more 3 wide receiver sets than the Rams, and they leave the same 3 guys out there for the whole game, literally, almost every snap. I'm not saying Caley's definitely going to do that for sure here with the Texans, but it's at least within the range of outcomes. My current bet is on Christian Kirk to beat out and hold off Jaylen Noel for that slot job. Kirk's underlying stats in his NFL career are really strong. He's still only 28 years old. He has had 1,000 yards in a season at the NFL level. But we do need to be mindful as the ADP gap between these guys grows. Christian Kirk is now going 129 overall. Jaylen Noel 188 overall. At that gap, I do prefer Kirk. But if it gets wider, I'll certainly mix in some Noel on teams where I don't have Christian Kirk. Let's get to this week's risers. First one is Trey Benson, Cardinals running back, up 4.2 spots to 152 overall. Pretty simple bet here on Trey Benson, classic 0 RB or hero RB target. The incumbent, James Conner, is very good. It will be a workhorse as long as he's healthy, but is 30 years old, has a long injury history, is coming off 283 touches. Benson, meanwhile, round 3 pick in 2024, averaged 4.6 yards per carry as a rookie and has very little competition. If James Conner were to miss time this season, I think we can project Trey Benson for 60 to 70% of Arizona's running back touches in those games. So fine target at 152 overall as a 1 injury away back. Now, in terms of the 1 injury away RB archetype generally, I want to be clear. This was a stone cold disaster last season. Workhorse running backs, older running backs, they stayed healthy and excelled at just a wildly high rate last season. Because that happened, we're getting incredible prices on this archetype. Trey Benson, Tyler Algier, Rashad White, Ray Davis, Braylon Allen are some names that come to mind, and there's plenty more. So on DraftKings, where I really want to lean into wide receiver because of the format, I'm generally betting on plenty of these 1 injury away backs again at really cheaper prices than last year in the hopes we see more chaos at running back this season. And honestly, what we normally see, there's normally tons of chaos at running back. So Trey Benson certainly in the mix there for me on that strategy. Second riser, rookie Ameer Ibuka up 2.3 spots to 99th overall on DK. Most rookies are trending down over the last month or so. I mentioned that annual dynamic last week on Market Monday, but Ibuka is up decently here, and I actually agree with it. I think people's first reaction was, man, that's a really rough landing spot for Ibuka. Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer. Chris Godwin was one of the best wide receivers in the NFL before getting hurt last year. Jalen McMillan flashed at times. But what that fails to capture is, what do I win when I win? Like, in some cases, going back to the Jaylen Noel thing, well, if he beats out Christian Kirk for that slot job, I'm not even sure how valuable Jaylen Noel will be in that scenario. But man, if Mike Evans regresses at age 32, or Godwin's ankle isn't right, or if one of those guys goes down, in that scenario, Ibuka goes buck wild. Like I'm confident he goes buck wild with Baker Mayfield, who's been a wide receiver kingmaker for 2 straight years. And even if those guys don't regress or don't go down, well, I don't think the Bucs take Ibuka at 19 overall to play him behind Jalen McMillions. So there's still a path for Ibuka standalone value in one of the best pass games in the NFL. Last riser is Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton up 1.7 spots to 207 overall. Ideally, on wide receiver-centric DraftKings, I am addressing other positions late in the draft. There are legit starting tight ends still on the board, some running back shots as well. If I do want to take wide receiver this late, Slayton is a fit for me on 2 fronts. First, Russ Wilson I don't think is very good anymore, but he remains one of the better deep ball throwers in the game. And that's exactly where Darius Slayton wins. And also, the Giants thought enough of Slayton to give him a 3-year, $36 million deal in March. So the role should be secure. So yeah, again, wide receiver late on DK isn't typically what I'm trying to do, but Slayton is right there with De'Ami Brown, Dante Thornton, some wide receivers that I've been taking in the 200s lately. All right. Thanks to everyone for listening. This show will go up weekly from now until September. So if you've not yet subscribed to the Established the Run podcast on audio or YouTube, be sure you are by searching for it anywhere podcasts are found. Also, be sure you're following me on Twitter for a ton more player takes at Adam Levitan. Interview with Austin Eckler coming out later this week. For Bruce Ryan. For Bruce Luke. For everyone on the Data Side team helping me track these moves all summer long, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.